Hey guys, it's Roderick. I'm here with a review of the Netflix series The Diplomat, starring Kerry Russell. So, I really enjoyed this show. This was a wholehearted, pleasant surprise in the vast array of gunk that you may find in different streaming services. Also, welcome to this channel. If you're new to this is where we review television, films, the reality television show with a little kiki with the eye towards filmmaking, acting, and directing. So, I like The Diplomat. So what we're gonna do, like we do for most Netflix series, since they give them to you kind of like all at one time, I'll give you a 40,000 feet above overview, what I liked about the series, whatever, and then I'll say stop. You go watch the series, and you come back and we can talk about some of the details and plot points and spoilers and all that type of stuff, okay? So, like I said, the Diplomat succeeds where, in my opinion, the recruit and the night agent kind of fails, right? So you have this, so pretty much it's, if you think about it, it's Homeland meets Designated Survivor with Scandal, right? So, and to kind of take all those shows all together with kind of different threads and different genres, and it really succeeds. In fact, I have to say, I like the first season of The Diplomat is almost on par with the first season of Homeland. I don't know if you have not watched Homeland, go and watch Homeland on Showtime. It's really good. So I really like it. So, and also what they do in this show is they have two inciting incidents. So here's the show's about. So you have Kerry Russell, who I really enjoy, plays a career foreign service officer who is married to a very high-profile former ambassador, and we have an inciting incident that happens. Actually, there's two inciting incidents that happen at the same time. Not major spoilers. So we have an attack on a British warship, and Kerry Russell is asked to be the ambassador to London, right? So those are two inciting incidents, and they would seem to be they're kind of like not connected, but they are connected. And then underneath that, we have our subplots, right? And the subplot is, you have our A storyline, our B storyline, and our C storylines, and they all really kind of delve together. And the show does a really good job of weaving all the storylines to, throughout each other, throughout every episode. I mean, you get some action, you get a little bit of relationship, you get drama, and it's so well done. It didn't kind of reek of that kind of grotesque, big budget expenditure. Oh, we're in London. Oh, we're in this place. The city kind of does play a major part in it, but it was a very grounded story. I thought that Kerry Russell does a really fantastic job because the show does kind of give you a Hillary and Bill Clinton-esque type of smell to it, but it's not really that, right? And you talk about shows with female leads and women having agency and the obstacles and, the glass ceiling that happens. This show does a really good job of putting that into context and using subtext, which is not speaking to something, but actually speaking to something, to show that. There's a really great scene in the series dealing with the chair, with Kerry Russell in the chair, and that the writers use to really drive home the context of women and their place when dealing with men or male-dominated places. But again, the show does, I have really nothing bad to say about the show. I mean, it gave us a really great finale. I was like, okay, sold. It was really good. And I was like, I want more. Like, every character was likable. I mean, they were great with diversity and inclusion. You had, Asian American characters that were leads, Black characters that were leads, British Black actors that were leads. And it wasn't just plopping in people of color and white characters and not being cognizant of their race, right? Which is, what certain other kind of maybe shows do. So go watch The Diplomat. It's a very easy watch. You will get hooked. You will get sucked in. Again, 5 stars, 10s across the board. Love the show. Okay, now we're going to talk about some spoilers. So go watch the show. Now, for those of you who watch the show, let's get into this kiki. Because what surprised me most is I thought it was going to be one of those kind of shows where it's like, oh, the husband and the wife and they're kind of like sniping, but the way in which they created this dynamic with Kate Weiler and then Hal is very interesting, right? Because she's more of the substance, he's more the flash, right? So you really do get that Hillary Clinton kind of Bill Clinton kind of essence. Not to say that Bill Clinton had no substance to him, but if you ever watch a documentary or news report, she's the more substantive, she's the smarter of the pair, really, right? But they really complement each other. And so what I love how they do is they have the Hal and Kate relationship, and the foil to that relationship is the Stewart and Miss Parks episode. I don't know, I forgot how to say her name, the Asian case officer, CIA officer, right? So we'll call her Miss Parks. So, because her last name is Parks. So it's Miss Parks and Stewart, you have Hal and this other thing, and then you have this whole espionage situation, right? Which I thought was really, 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 really good as to like who shot the tanker and her trying to figure it out. And this show does, when you talk about attention to detail, like the way she's costumed, right? Because if you watch Homeland, she very much gives you like Carrie Mathison vibes with like that black pantsuit, these blouses. She's not frilly, but she's an ambassador, right? So there's a frilly element to it that she kind of rebels against and rebukes. That ends up making the show like really likable. Like Kate's character is understandable, it's likable, it's also dislikable, and there's layers to every character. When Hal's sitting outside with Dennison's sister, and he's like, I just attract mopey women, like that was such a great scene, because now you get the fact that it's not just Hal who's always making these bad decisions, it's the fact that Kate is just maybe a mopey ass person who could suck, like he said, who could literally like suck the life out of any good thing because she's so pragmatic and she's always thinking about the details, whatever. And Hal just wants to live in the moment. Not that he's not thinking about the details. He knows the details will work out. So my second favorite scene is when she goes to Washington and she meets her old friend who she's working about in Kabul and the 35,000 people, right? Now, I don't know if you caught this, but earlier Kate tells the story about how Hal commandeered an airplane in Afghanistan to go negotiate peace. And she says, if you talk to half the people, they'll say it was a heroic thing. If you talk to other half the people, they say it was Hal being wild because the plane that Hal took stranded 35,000 Afghans who are really CIA assets, right? Helping them in their war in Afghanistan. So when he took the plane, the assets couldn't leave. So then they all were like, killed and rounded up by the Taliban or whatever for participating in helping Americans. So when she finds out that all of her assets and people she's talked to are now dying and dead, that's, the consequence of Hal's actions. And the way Hal is able to, like, the fact is that they want her to be the vice president, right? And that she is very resistant, but Hal has political motives. And the show does make you kind of think, like, did he just want her to be vice president so he could be Secretary of State? Like, the fact is that you really can't really trust whether or not Hal is doing something for, the sake of doing it, or is he doing it just for his own personal endeavors, or are they so intertwined with Hal's persona, he can't tell the difference, because we can't tell the difference. I love that. I thought that the characters were really, really great. Again, I don't have really, very seldom do I watch a show and I have nothing bad to say about the show. And then that was it. Like, it was such a pleasant surprise. I didn't really know about it was going in. It hooked me at the inciting incident. 2 inciting incidents is very novel, because if you have 2 inciting incidents, then, then you have, kind of like the antagonist, the protagonist vision is parsed with 2 inciting incidents, right? Because you don't know which is important. But the way the writers are able to mesh together the warship explosion and her becoming ambassador to London, they're intertwined, right? One incident set off another incident set off another incident, and now they're joint, right? And I was watching this, and then when we get to the part where, and so then, let's talk about the hot foreign secretary, right? Because I was like, do I need to get me a hot, do I need to go to London and get me a hot British black man? I know y'all think I've been dogging them out because my whole thing with Handmaid's Tale, but I was like, that foreign secretary is fine as fuck. I was like, I was just like, Kate, fuck Hal. Because the whole scene where like she's in the middle and she has Hal and she has, I would be like, you know what? Stuart's like arrangements can be made. You have Hal and you're fucking this foreign secretary. But I hope he's not a fuckboy. I really, really hope he's not a fuckboy. But he seems like a really, really, really great guy. I mean, the chemistry between, Kate and the foreign minister, Dennison, and her and Hal, it's realistic. I wasn't so sold on the chemistry between Stewart and Miss Parks, but I think it's not necessarily the lack of chemistry as opposed to that's how their personalities work. I think Stewart is just a dry, boring ass person, and Miss Parks is a very pragmatic, cynical CIA agent, and that's just how their personalities mesh, right? It's kind of like two nerds get together, just kind of like have a nerd explosion. So I, again, have nothing bad to say about this show. I was very, very surprised. Great character development, excellent writing, right? I mean, when you see a show, especially in the first pilot, with the first season of it, the creator of the show typically will write the first 3 episodes because that kind of gives us an arc, right? I was not able to tell the writing from the creator to the next writer who came in. Even though the tone, I could tell the different tonal changes. I could, kind of tell sometimes a change in direction. But there was not such a stark break off where I was wondering, am I watching the same show that I started watching? Throughout the entire series, the writing was excellent. It was just fantastic use of subtext, superb acting. That dress she wore for the Vogue, fantastic. The locations, I mean, the ending thing in Paris. Let's talk about Paris, right? Because Hal would have had his ass almost barbecued to death. I don't think Hal is dead, but Hal would have had his ass barbecued to death if he had just minded his own business. I am going to get a t-shirt that says #NYOB. All Hal had to do was mind his own business, right? I love the president, by the way. He kind of gives you that, he's a good mixture of that Donald Trump, Joe Biden, old grouchy man thing, when he was like, this one's trying to, is trying to quit, sack up. I mean, even the kind of the sub-characters, like the people working the house, are interesting, right? Because did anyone else think that Hal was going to fuck old girl who's working in the house? But that was a great thing. Like, you knew Hal had some bad character trait, and immediately you're like, oh my God, he's a cheater. And when she goes, my husband's not a cheater, but I know that's what women say who have husband cheating. We're like, girl, you're a fool. And it's not that Hal cheats, because he says that his penis only works for her. Because when he's in the pond with the Dennison sister, he didn't fuck her because his dick didn't work, because he only has sex with Kate. His fatal flaw is he just is power hungry, right? And that is such a novel thing to have. Like, not a character who's a murderer, not he's a psycho. He just wants to be famous like all everybody else or whatever. And I thought that was such a great character flaw, right? Because his flaw is the inverse of Kate's flaw, is that she wants to be taken seriously so much and so time, she doesn't see the bigger picture. And that totally works in this thing. Let's talk about the chair. So I don't know if you all caught the whole chair thing when Kate was meeting with the prime ministers, whatever, at Dennison's house, and she has to sit in the chair, and she gets in the chair and she has to then scoot her chair up to the table, but she can't really sit in the chair, and then they offer her a pillow. That is literally subtext for women having having a seat at a table and then not being able to really fit into the roles that they're supposed to be in, right? So I thought that was so brilliant, because you see her struggling to get into the chair. You see her struggling to get up to the table. She gets to the table. She's offered a pillow, something for her to sit on, that kind of brings her up to level with the rest of the men. And then she continues. At no time does Kate refuse the assistance. It's just see the struggle of what women have to deal with when they go into, these male dominant kind of roles and industries. And I thought that was very good, because I think that's relevant. I think it wasn't very preachy. It wasn't very on the nose. The use of subtext for that I thought was fantastic. So anyway, Go watch The Diplomat. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Like I said, this is gonna be this may be worth the $30 that Netflix be trying to goop for me all every month. But we'll see. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Let's talk about The Diplomat. I want to know what you guys think about it, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.